What's up, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering. It's July 5th, and Joe Biden is a empty corn husk of a man. Barely. But I guess, according to him, he is also a black woman. The number of gaffes that we're seeing coming out of Joe Biden now are just almost impossible to cover in their entirety. It's just a never-ending embarrassment for Joe Biden now, describing himself as a black woman during a radio interview. Now, tonight he has an interview with George Snuffleupagus or whatever, which I suspect will have probably no less than 100 different edits in it. I suspect he will be given multiple chances to answer the same question until he gives a good... I mean, this is going to be the most highly edited piece of political, propaganda maybe that has ever existed. But let's listen to Joe Biden talking about him being Aunt Jemima and CNN turning on him and much more after this super quick word from this video's sponsor, Private Internet Access. Shout out to this video's sponsor, Private Internet Access. Look, it's 2024. If you aren't using a VPN yet, you're completely missing out, and Private Internet Access is the one I use on all of my devices. If you've been following the news, you see that censorship, websites, apps are getting shut down in certain countries, all sorts of craziness. Well, a VPN helps you never have to worry about that. Private Internet Access also protects you from the prying eyes of hackers, internet service providers, and others that can view your personal data. Perhaps also just as importantly, Private Internet Access allows you to access region-restricted content from all over the world. Streaming services like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and more have different library options based on where you're located, and some shows simply cannot be accessed if you're not in the target location. Happens to me all the time. Many sports events also have regional blackouts. Well, VPNs can be a convenient way to make sure you're getting the content that you're paying for. Private Internet Access also allows you to protect an unlimited amount of devices all at the same time, so your entire household with a single subscription. And I've been working with Private Internet Access so long that I have an absolutely massive discount available to my viewers. Link in the description below. Get Private Internet Access today using my link. Save huge, protect your computers, access all the content that you've been paying for, and ensure that your internet is never censored.
By the way, I'm proud to be, as I said, the first vice president, first black woman to serve with a black president.
What?
I'm proud of the first black woman in the Supreme Court. There's just so much that we can do because together we...
Why do they cater towards such a small part of the population so desperately? It's so weird. First of all, obviously what Joe Biden was trying to say was that he was proud to have served with the first black president in reference to Barack Obama, and also black vice president in relation to Kamala Harris. But that's not what came out of his mouth. It's just basic talking now. Just basic words. Do you understand the words coming out of my mouth? No, we don't. By the way, if you're new to the channel, if you haven't yet, please do subscribe or follow down below. It helps the channel immensely. I'll be covering on the ground at the RNC, so I should have lots of fun videos for you there too. Let me know what collabs you may want. Joe Biden described himself as a black woman during a radio interview flub as calls mount for the 81-year-old president to drop his re-election bid. The gaffe-prone president at 81 stumbled over his words in Thursday's interview with Philadelphia's WURD, seemingly mixing himself up with Vice President Kamala Harris. Biden appeared to be highlighting his appointment of Kamala Harris to the United States as the first black female vice president. Again, that is not an accomplishment. The color of your skin is not an accomplishment. The color of your skin is not a feat. The color of your skin is not a piece of legislature. The color of your skin is not the results of a plan working out. Okay. Biden appeared to be highlighting this confusingly. He himself was previously vice president, which is likely what he's referring to in terms of serve as a black president. The president sat down with black radio hosts in Milwaukee and Philadelphia for his first post-debate interviews following a disastrous fallout in the weeks since. His gaffe has since set the worlds of the media and politics alike, with New York Times among the prestigious liberal publications highlighting it. Biden admitted that he had had a bad debate last week, but argued it didn't outweigh the work he's done in office. Let's just pretend that's true, right? Let's just pretend that that's true, okay? And I want to accept that. Let's say I think you've done anything good in office, which I think it would be hard for me to think of something. Your debate, sure, it doesn't undo what you've done, but it does undo whether or not anyone wants to see you going forward, whether or not anyone wants to see you in the future. The president's camp was heavily critical of the media in response to the controversy. It was clear what President Biden meant when he was talking about the historic record, including a record number of appointments to the federal bench. Spokesman Anmar Musa said, "This is not news that the media has passed to the point of absurdity now." So what the White House is raging that people continue to report on the president's flubs. Now, the reason they're mad is because over the last 4 years, this same media has been willingly covering up for it, has been absolutely positively covering up for the president's flubs, like unequivocally. So now that they're suddenly covering it, all of a sudden, what I'm supposed to be like, they're suddenly supposed to be covering up for it now? No. Even the top CNN doctor, Sanjay Gupta, remember Sanjay Gupta, who went on Joe Rogan's podcast, if I remember correctly, and tried to defend hilariously badly CNN making Joe Rogan's skin gray on purpose, purposely editing the photo of Joe Rogan to make him look sicker than he really was. And it was like pulling teeth to get Sanjay Gupta to admit that maybe that wasn't a good thing to do. Well, now CNN's chief medical expert, Sanjay Gupta, has joined the chorus of voters who want President Joe Biden to undergo rigorous cognitive testing to determine his mental fitness for the job. Do you think even for a second that we're ever going to see the results of said test? I certainly don't. I don't think we're going to see the results of any tests. Unless, what they'll say is, oh, it was the most sparkling results of any cognitive test ever. President Joe Biden has the cognitive ability of an 18-year-old alpha male. That's what they'll say. Dr. Gupta argued that the aspects of the 81-year-old's disastrous showing last week debate against Donald Trump were significant signals that he needs to be tested for signs of cognitive decline, which are precursor for dementia or Parkinson's. Dr. Gupta, a practicing neurosurgeon, noted that president's halting speech, confused ramblings, sudden loss of concentration, stiff gait, and lack of facial animation. It caused a flurry of messages from fellow neurologists who said that Mr. Biden should be encouraged to undergo detailed cognitive and movement disorder testing, and that those results should be made available to the public. They will never be made available to the public. Not going to happen. Now, maybe it gets leaked, and then we'll know what the big, the uniparty really wants. The calls from Gupta, whose network has been an ardent supporter of Biden, shows a growing number of his supporters are losing steam for the party's nominee. Well, I mean, how could you have had any steam in the first place? Dr. Gupta said, when the 46th president of the United States took to the debate stage a week ago, it became apparent even from his first answer that this would not be the performance we hoped for. Following his poor showing, Mr. Biden gave a scripted speech at a rally of supporters in North Carolina. In it, he said he no longer debates as well as he did when he was younger, nor does he walk as well, but he's still a more trustworthy candidate than the former president. Yeah, great. That makes me feel great about our choices as Americans. Still, the White House has not put out President Biden on center stage without a teleprompter since then, and voters will closely be watching the televised interview with TV anchor George Snuffleupagus on Friday. Mr. Biden has some risk factors of dementia. He underwent 2 surgeries for aneurysms, which one that ruptured in 1988, a condition that caused bleeding in the brain. There's some evidence pointing to an increased risk of dementia later in life. Mr. Biden also has been diagnosed with atrial fibrillation, an irregular and often very rapid heart rhythm. Numerous observational studies have found a 13% greater risk of dementia linked to AFib. He also has obstructive sleep apnea and wears a CPAP device while he sleeps to keep his airways open and prevent daytime sleepiness. Oxygen deprivation as a result of OSA has also been associated with higher dementia risk, particularly for Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's. While the White House press office has worked to assuage doubts of his mental capacity to stay in the job another 4 years, Dr. Gupta argued that assurances from the President Biden's inner circle aren't enough. He said he expected to see signs of cognitive decline as a person aged, especially fluid abilities like processing speed, attention span, and memory. This is normal and expected and doesn't necessarily stand in the way of someone's ability to do their job, but for a minority of us, the decline is steeper and can lead to dementia. I mean, certainly I would argue that, watching this man on stage, like, you almost felt bad for him. If he wasn't the leader of the free world, I would say, like, man, like, somebody let him retire. Like, you feel like these evil people around him keeping him there, to humiliate him in the final years of his life. Now, he's got his big sit-down interview with Stephanopoulos tonight. I expect nothing from it. I expect it to be heavily edited. I expect it to be, if it's anything but live, it's hard for me to even consider it to be anything other than just pure propaganda. But I suppose we'll wait and see. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like on it. If you haven't yet, please do subscribe or follow down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.